Just as tensions between India and Pakistan were escalating, with many fearing a slide into full-scale or even nuclear war, the two nations suddenly announced a ceasefire. U.S. President Trump immediately took to his social media platform, claiming it was all thanks to America's all-night mediation. But Trump was quickly contradicted. Not only did India state that the ceasefire was a direct result of talks between the two countries, but even America's own media wasn't giving the president much credit. CNN, in its reporting, openly expressed skepticism. So if it wasn't intense pressure from the U.S., what caused these two bitter rivals, who never back down, to suddenly start acting reasonably? The conflict between India and Pakistan was baked in from the day they were founded, and has only deepened over time. In 1947, facing a rising tide of national independence movements in British India and its own diminished power after World War II, the United Kingdom was forced to admit it could no longer control its South Asian colony. It agreed to grant independence. However, thanks to Britain's long-standing strategy of stoking local religious and ethnic tensions to make the region easier to rule, the different factions could not coexist peacefully. Britain also wanted to leave behind a lever for future intervention. The then Viceroy of British India, Lord Mountbatten, proposed a solution riddled with landmines. Under his plan, territories directly ruled by the British were divided into two nations, India and Pakistan, based on the religious majority of their residents. The semi-autonomous princely states, however, could choose to be independent or to join either country. Powerless on their own, these states inevitably had to join whichever nation's sphere of influence they fell into. This made the princely state of Kashmir, located between the two, with a majority Muslim population but a Hindu ruler, the natural focal point of their conflict. In their very first year of existence, the two countries went to war over Kashmir. The result was a stalemate, with each side controlling a portion of the region. The already severe religious animosity was now compounded by a territorial dispute and the scars of war. In the decades that followed, their relationship remained hostile, with the Kashmir region as a constant flashpoint, twice erupting into full-scale war. In late April of this year, the situation began to escalate again. India accused Pakistan of orchestrating a terrorist attack in Indian-controlled Kashmir. As retaliation, India suspended a water-sharing treaty, closed a border crossing, and expelled Pakistani personnel. Pakistan naturally denied the accusation, engaging in a war of words on the international stage, while implementing its own countermeasures. The tit-for-tat sanctions ratcheted up tensions, and on May 7th, things turned violent.
The Indian Air Force launched pre-dawn airstrikes against targets inside Pakistan. Detected by radar, the Pakistani Air Force immediately scrambled to intercept. After the battle, Pakistan claimed a decisive 6-0 victory. The Indian government remained silent, but with little control over its own media, wreckage of downed Indian fighter jets quickly appeared on the internet. It was clear India had suffered a major defeat. Given India's characteristic bravado and refusal to admit defeat, everyone expected swift retaliation. True to form, India did retaliate the next day, launching missile and drone strikes against Pakistan. But Pakistan is just as stubborn as its old rival. Having come out on top in the initial clash, it wasn't about to back down now. On May 10th, Pakistan launched Operation Iron Wall, striking targets inside India and launching cyber attacks that caused power outages. As the conflict grew, many feared it would spiral out of control. But just as the world held its breath, India and Pakistan suddenly announced an immediate ceasefire, agreeing to resolve their issues through peaceful negotiation. While the world's peace lovers breathed a sigh of relief, they also wondered why these two nations had made a decision so out of character. Then President Trump was the first to jump in and take credit. He posted on social media that it was America's all-night mediation that forced the ceasefire. According to Trump, he threatened to cut off all business with both countries if they didn't stop fighting, which scared them into compliance. Given America's economic power and its traditional influence in the region, the world, though wary of Trump's penchant for exaggeration, was inclined to believe the U.S. had played a role. But, to everyone's surprise, Trump's victory lap was cut short. After seeing his comments, India quickly pushed back, with sources telling the media that the ceasefire was the result of direct contact between the two nations. Pakistan was more diplomatic, acknowledging that international mediation was a factor, but stating that over 30 countries were involved in the effort. It wasn't an all-American show. Even America's own media wasn't buying it. In its report on the ceasefire, CNN pointed out that just 2 days prior, Vice President Vance had said in an interview that the India-Pakistan conflict isn't America's business, casting clear doubt on the president's claims of active mediation. It seems the U.S. played no decisive role in this ceasefire. Trump's statement was more of an attempt to steal credit. He had risen to power on his America First slogan, but had achieved few tangible results in either domestic or foreign policy. His team was skilled at creating the illusion of victory through PR. But boast without facts eventually ring hollow. Trump desperately needed a political win that demonstrated American influence. Mediating a conflict between two nuclear powers was the perfect opportunity. Forcing them to stand down would showcase America's strength and earn it praise as a global peacemaker.
Claim was plausible, as both countries rely heavily on U.S. military support. But Trump likely didn't expect India to so blatantly call him out. According to India, the ceasefire was a direct deal. Pakistan thanked international mediators but stressed that the ceasefire was in the mutual interest of both parties. This is a stark departure from their past behavior, where neither side was willing to back down, leading to endless cycles of escalation. But if you look at the domestic situations in both countries, the sudden ceasefire isn't so surprising. In India, Prime Minister Modi had been in power for over a decade by stoking nationalist sentiment. But the grand promises he made to the public had failed to materialize. He desperately needed a new issue to distract the population, and war with a rival is a classic diversion. So India picked a fight over Kashmir, but then got thoroughly beaten in the initial air battle. While India could have eventually won a full-scale war due to its size advantage, the international community would never allow it to conquer Pakistan. A major war with no tangible gains wouldn't help Modi's domestic problems. So why not just use the power of modern PR to hype up the success of the air raids, downplay their own losses, and manufacture a victorious atmosphere at home? For Pakistan, the calculation was different. First, they knew they couldn't win a full-scale war against India and would suffer heavy losses even if the international community eventually intervened. Second, Pakistan's civilian government and its military are not a unified force. They are rivals for power. The longer and more successful a war is, the more powerful the military becomes, something the civilian government absolutely does not want. Therefore, it was in the government's best interest to quit while they were ahead. With both sides unwilling to escalate the conflict further, the international community provided a convenient off-ramp in the form of mediation, and both India and Pakistan were happy to take it.